Richmond's northern flood wall, 4,277 feet of concrete and steel, built to protect the Chaco Valley from the wrath of the mighty James River. It's lined with names of storms that have come and gone, wreaking watery havoc and leaving ruin in their wake. But one name is missing, a storm that turned Chaco Bottom upside down, and the flood wall was powerless to stop it. On Monday, August 30th, 2004, the remnants of Hurricane Gaston pulled into central Virginia and hit the brakes right above the city.
It was insane.
Former CBS 6 photojournalist Chris Norton was behind the camera that day.
I'd never seen it rain that hard, probably ever, and the fact that it did it for a couple hours.
He was initially sent to a Southside neighborhood that typically floods during bad storms, but was rerouted downtown.
I can't even remember where we parked, and I can't remember how we got down here.
Eventually, he made it to the corner of Canal and 14th Streets.
We could see kind of halfway down the block, the water was up to there, and they were bringing people from the bottom up in boats. I don't know whose boats, but like regular like John boats and rafts and stuff like that. They were just bringing people up, and it was still raining.
It's estimated that as many as 14 inches may have fallen in a period of just about 8 hours.
We get big, heavy rain events quite often from tropical systems, but to have that much in that short a period of time, very unusual.
Chief Meteorologist Zach Daniels says the urban nature of Chaco Bottom made the extraordinary situation that much worse because there was no place for the water to sink into the ground.
It was just a flash flooding event on steroids, and it happened to be in an area that everything funnels in.
And within a matter of minutes, I mean, it was truly, you've heard it said, but it was class 5-foot rapids going down 15th and down Main Street, cars being swept away, power poles being swept away, street lights being knocked down.
And it was so chaotic and so powerful. I grew up surfing, and I would have never in a million years jumped into the water to try and help. It was impossible.
Developer Bill Chapman worked on 15th Street at the time.
So the wall over by the train station, water was coming over that wall, just like what you would see at Z-Dam on the James River.
At that point, he knew the only direction to go was up.
Once we were able to sort of get to safety on the second floor, looking down, it looked like an event where people were going to lose their lives.
While many rushed to get away from the rising water, first responders ran towards it.
By far the biggest weather event.
Richmond Police Chief Rick Edwards says it was an all-hands-on-deck operation.
You know, I just remember hearing the call, like people were calling 911 saying, I need the police to come pick me up and take me to this thing. And we're like, no, stay where you're at. You know, if it's an emergency, we're coming. But we can't do any good if we're getting stuck in the rain or if our car gets washed off the road.
While the bottom was ground zero, other parts of the metro dealt with their own deluge. The Powhite Parkway became submerged, causing catastrophic damage to the toll road. And Falling Creek turned into a raging river, washing away most everything in its path.
The current just swept me to right here, and this is where my truck rested. I don't think if the curb wasn't there, I would have gone right down in the gully, and I would have been a goner.
Countless acts of heroism were caught on tape during the height of the storm. Rescuers used ropes, human chains, and sheer willpower to get people to safety. Sadly, 8 people in the Richmond area lost their lives as a result of the flash flooding, mostly those who tried to drive through the high water. Then, sometime that night, the rain stopped, and as quickly as the floodwaters rose, they subsided. But come morning, the true extent of the destruction was on full display.
The devastation in terms of a lot of the businesses in the bottom is overwhelming.
It's really crazy, man, just to see all this stuff just thrown about. The walls is caved in. I got to start over on everything.
Before the flood, Chaco Bottom was burgeoning.
Starting to establish itself as a significant residential neighborhood.
Now, it was barely recognizable.
The area between really 15th and maybe 18th Street, especially from Main down towards the river, was just a disaster.
Nearly 24 historic city blocks were covered in filth and condemned.
After the water went down, it looked like a little kid was in a tub, had a bunch of toys, and somebody let the water out, and all the toys were like in the corner of the tub. And that's what it looked like, and it was real.
You know, but I just remember thinking, wow, we're going to be working 12-hour shifts every day until this is cleaned up.
The recovery took days, weeks, months, and even longer for some.
And, I think Havana 59 was closed for years.
In the aftermath of the storm, anguish was coupled with outrage.
What is the city going to do to address the storm drains, the sewer drains, so it doesn't continue to happen? That's the question.
While the amount of rain had been unprecedented, an outdated drainage system contributed to the chaos. And almost no one in the bottom had flood insurance, since the construction of the flood wall a decade prior had taken this area out of the flood zone.
For most people, it was a matter of everything they lost had to be repaid out of pocket.
And it would cost millions.
All I care about is being alive because, hey, the Lumina is dead.
But despite all the challenges, a sense of perseverance rose to the surface.
This city will come back.
It's heartbreaking, true. But I so thank God that I am alive and I can rebuild, and I'm going to.
We know through what we've already experienced that we are a resilient city and a resilient community, and this too shall pass.
20 years seems like the blink of an eye for those who survived Gaston and flooding. And since it happened before YouTube, before the iPhone, some are just now getting a chance to really look at the storm that they lived through.
I've never seen video from that.
A once-in-a-lifetime event that will hopefully never repeat itself.
Wow.
Think about how much more stuff's down here now than 20 years ago. There's more people living down here. There's more businesses down here. You would have a lot more of a loss down here if something like that happened again.